What if Ghost Rider was in Demon Slayer? What would the spirit of vengeance do to Muzan and his demons? Ghost Rider is an entity with absurd power, capable of subduing even cosmic beings. He can even rival Galactus, the devourer of worlds in the Marvel Universe. Obviously, he wouldn't need to use all of his craziest powers to defeat Muzan and his demons. However, among his powers, the Penance Stare is the one that will make major changes in the story. Because with this power, the Ghost Rider is able to make his victims feel and relive all the pain and suffering they have caused others. He can completely destroy the target's mind. This is an ability that is only ineffective against those who don't have souls, or against some beings protected by divine magic, and even those who feel no guilt or remorse for their actions. So, how would the Onis, or rather the Upper Moons and Muzan, react to the Ghost Rider's Penance Stare? Also, will Ghost Rider use the Penance Stare on the Oni hunters? Precisely because Ghost Rider is an entity that seeks to punish the guilty and protect the innocent. However, the Hashiras and the Oni hunters in general have already killed many souls tormented by Muzan's blood. Including Tomioka, the Hashira who lives tormented by his own weakness, mentally sabotaging himself, believes he is to blame for the death of his friend, Sabito. That's why I ask you, considering the encounter with Johnny Blaze in his Ghost Rider form, the Spirit of Vengeance, is it possible that Tomioka, or any Hashira, could have their mind completely destroyed by the Spirit of Vengeance? What will Ghost Rider change in the story of Demon Slayer? But the most interesting question actually is, how did Johnny Blaze, or rather Ghost Rider, end up in the Demon Slayer universe? See, during a chase against a demon who escaped from hell, Ghost Rider is pulled through a dimensional rift opened by supernatural forces. After falling into a dense and sinister forest, Ghost Rider, with his hell cycle, moves forward, leaving flames in his wake as he searches for the demon. As he moves through the forest, he encounters several Onis. Johnny realizes that although these Onis are not demons from his own hell, they fit the criteria for his targets. They kill innocents, destroy families, and live off human blood. Johnny, with his mystical chains and conjuring the flames of hell, burns the Onis completely, cutting off their paths and incinerating every cell of the Oni. Further ahead, Johnny finds Inosuke fighting against the Spider Demon Father. Quickly, Johnny cuts off the arm of the Spider Demon Father and wraps him in his demonic chains, burning him completely. Inosuke is terrified by what he saw and stays alert to fight against the Ghost Rider. Suddenly, Tomioka arrives and quickly unleashes a wave of attacks against Johnny. Fortunately for Johnny, Tomioka's attacks don't mean much, since he can regenerate and keep up with his speed easily, even without his hellish motorcycle. You see, Ghost Rider has already faced heroes and villains with insane speeds like Thor, Hulk, and many other heroes and villains. Quickly, Johnny realizes that Tomioka and Inosuke are fighting for the same goal, to punish the guilty. And having the experience of already entering several alternate universes, Johnny recognizes the strength of the Oni hunters and warns that he is fighting for the same cause. But in that world, the hunters are unaware of any friendly word or gesture coming from the Onis. And in this case, they are unaware of any friendly word or gesture coming from anything or anyone that looks like an Oni. Tomioka once again fights fairly, trying to attack the Ghost Rider, who in response to the Water Hashira's attack unleashes his Penance Stare. However, as a warning, it makes Tomioka relive all the guilt he carries, bringing back all his moments of greatest pain and suffering. Not with the goal of destroying him, but with the goal of stopping him so he can continue his pursuit of the demon who escaped from hell. We should remember that Johnny has already used his Penance Stare in this way against some of the heroes of the Marvel Universe, precisely to keep them from going beyond the limits of justice. With his hell cycle, Johnny continues on until he reaches Tanjiro. Before being sliced by Rui's webs, Tanjiro is saved by Johnny, who cuts them with his mystical chains and wraps Rui in his infernal flames, destroying him completely. When Shinobu and Kanao arrive and stand before the Ghost Rider, they both attack him, but they can't keep up with him while he's riding his infernal motorcycle. Johnny once again uses the Penance Stare on Shinobu, which has a similar effect as it did on Tomioka, making her relive all her pain and trauma from losing her sister Kanai, not being strong enough to help her in the fight against Upper Moon 2. But you see, Kanao is not affected by the Penance Stare, precisely because she has no guilt, only carrying pain and suffering from her past. Thus, Johnny binds her with his mystical chains and continues on his path, searching for the demon that was loose in the Demon Slayer universe. Upon returning to the Demon Slayer Corps, a meeting is called to discuss Nezuko and the Ghost Rider, an entity that is beyond the Corps' knowledge. Tomioka and Shinobu report on his powers, including the fact that he defeated the demons. The Demon Slayers are left with a question: is the Ghost Rider an ally or an enemy? These questions will be answered in time. So stay until the end to find out if he will join the Demon Slayer Corps or continue his journey alone in this story. On the Infinity Train, when Rengoku faces the demon, Johnny Blaze makes his extravagant entrance, coming out from behind the train cars with his Hell Cycle. Rengoku immediately faces the Ghost Rider, who speeds past him and goes straight for the demon, who dodges his blazing chains that cut through the air with supernatural cracks. Every strike from the demon aimed at Rengoku was blocked by Johnny's hellish chain. At the peak of the fight, while the demon was facing Ghost Rider, the penance stare hit the Oni, completely destroying his mind, annihilating his soul, making him feel all the pain for every death and suffering he caused. That happened when he was both human and Oni. The demon agonized as his mind was completely destroyed and burned by Ghost Rider's hellfire, trying to get answers for the corporation. Rengoku stays in a battle stance to face Ghost Rider, who gets on his motorcycle and rides away, completely changing the original storyline of Demon Slayer. Already in the entertainment district, while the hunters were facing Daki and Gyutaro, they detected once again the presence of evil beings. While Zui, Nosuke, and Zenitsu were on the ground, Ghost Rider jumps into action again. While Daki watched her brother mocking Tanjiro, Johnny caught her attention as he rode by, causing explosions and a loud noise with his Hell Cycle. Daki throws her sashes at the Spirit of Vengeance, who sets them ablaze with hellfire, destroying them instantly. And before Gyutaro can make a move against Johnny, he uses the penance stare on the Oni, who screams and disintegrates within seconds. The fight didn't even last more than a minute. In front of Tanjiro, Johnny stares at the boy, who asks what his goal is. Johnny simply says that his goal is to punish the guilty and save the Onis. Tanjiro has a conversation with Johnny, trying to recruit him for the Demon Slayer Corps, saying that the Hashiras would see value in Johnny, just like Tomioka, Rengoku, and Zui saw value in his sister Nezuko and Oni. Johnny states that he prefers to work alone. However, in his search for the demon that escaped from hell, it would be much faster if he could get information from other people who fight daily, or rather nightly, against the Onis and travel all over Japan. Johnny accepts Tanjiro's proposal, but he decides to stay only by the side of the boy who has a pure soul, while he embarks with Tanjiro on his journey, fighting alongside the hunter against the Onis, the boy with the Hanafuda earrings. He would give him the information if the Corps spotted any demon in his world, in the village of the blacksmiths, something insane. It happens. While the Ghost Rider was making a full patrol around the village, Muzan's upper moons appear, and things unfold similar to the original storyline. But this time, while Multiro fights against Gyoku, he can't awaken Johnny's hunter mark, precisely because Tanjiro hasn't awakened it. After all, he wasn't able to meet the necessary conditions to awaken it in the fight against Gyutaro, since the battle was interrupted by Johnny Blaze. So, will Muchiro be able to win the fight against Gyoku without awakening the hunter mark? Look, this time, Muzan, tired of the constant failures of his upper moons and aware of the beings surrounding them, wouldn't just send Gyoku and Rantengo on the mission. He also sends Duma, upper moon 2, which would be a huge problem for the Demon Slayers. When Dalma makes his entrance with a cryokinetic explosion that freezes everything around him, his overwhelming presence, it's overshadowed by the Spirit of Vengeance, who arrives on his motorcycle to face him. Duma unleashes all his most powerful attacks against Johnny, who sets them ablaze with his hellfire. He completely melts all the ice created by Duma while riding his Hell Cycle, which sets everything it passes by on fire. Immune to blood cold due to his fiery nature, Johnny grabs Dolma by the throat with a flaming chain and forces him to face the penance stare. Spiritual death is instant, no need to cut off the head, while the Oni feel Dolma's presence fading away. Several find themselves in terrible trouble until the arrival of the Ghost Rider, who frees him from Gyoku's water prison and destroys him, chaining the Oni with his chains and burning him alive. Heading towards Rantengo, Johnny arrives setting everything on fire. and incinerating all of Zohakuten's wooden dragons, while Tanjiro hunts the original clone to decapitate him. At this point, Nezuko awakens to the sun, and Tanjiro finishes off Rantengo's original clone. This time, the Hashiras are present. Having their lives saved by the Ghost Rider, they recognize his value and take him to Ubuyashiki's mansion to integrate him into the fight against Muzan. After all, the King of the Onis will surely come after Nezuko to become the perfect demon after telling his story to Ubuyashiki's Hashiras. Johnny and the hunters wait for Muzan's entrance, who summons them to the Infinity Castle, and the Ghost Rider's carnage finally begins. Riding his infernal motorcycle, he travels throughout the Infinity Castle, destroying the Onis with hellfire, burning them until nothing is left. When he meets Kokushibo, the monstrous speed and the almost divine sword technique make him Upper Moon 1. The greatest challenge faced by the Spirit of Vengeance, at least so far. Johnny withstands the slashes with his skeletal body, and counterattacks with his mystical chains. In the end, the hellfire begins to consume Kokushibo's demonic cells, disintegrating even his sword. With the Oni in disbelief at the strength of the Ghost Rider, he faces his judgment for centuries as a human. And the Oni faces the penance stare. When Kagako and Nakimi are defeated, only Muzan remains. An epic battle takes place. Muzan tries to use Johnny's body as a host, transforming his body into a giant mouth to absorb him. But the Spirit of Vengeance is much older and powerful, expelling Muzan from his body, burning half of the King of Oni's body. The Ghost Rider faces Muzan head-on. Without the help of the Hashiras, Muzan is witnessing a flame greater than the flames of Yorichi, the one who tormented him for centuries. When Johnny finally decides to end the battle, the penance stare is so devastating that Muzan relives every life he destroyed, every massacred family, every child killed. Simultaneously, as a last resort, Muzan's body explodes, splitting into millions of pieces in an attempt to escape. But the hellish flames summoned by the Ghost Rider expels every part, every piece, every cell of Muzan, exterminating him completely, thanks to Johnny Blaze, or rather, thanks to the Spirit of Vengeance, the Ghost Rider. The war against the Onis is finally over. All the Hashiras were saved, thanks to the interventions of the Spirit of Vengeance. Even Nezuko was treated in time by Shinobu Itamayo, so that she could become human again. Since no hunter awakened the mark of the Oni hunters, everyone would live their lives in peace. In the end, the demon reappears and Johnny chases him, chaining him up, and throws him into a portal back to hell, returning to his universe. So, Otaku, did you enjoy this story? Which character deserves to appear in this segment? Check out this video I picked out for you. I guarantee you'll like it. See you there, Otaku.